Hey, good morning / afternoon and everything between. So I'm back today with I think we're gonna do a little bit of a shorter stream today as well. Still not feeling 100%, and we're going to continue where we left off yesterday. I have a set of smaller tasks I want to take care of concerning the terrain and terrain paint and so on. So I think we're pretty much going to skip the proportions texture for the grass. That is going to be 100% controlled by the player. And we're also going to instantiate this landscape with no grass whatsoever. Yeah, I think we can begin there and see where we end up. Although I'm wondering, one sec. Oh yeah, these values has been changed again, I guess, yeah. So yesterday we worked a bit with this, so when not to draw grass and when to darken the underlying ground. And it's a pretty hard balance how exactly we want to do this, I think. But yeah, we will get to that. So let's start by jumping to the procedural grass shader, or terrain procedural grass, and its proportion multiplier we want to remove here. And this also means that we can, is this the only place where we use it? Great, and then we have environment controller. Do we do this in terrain actually? Terrain base. Set material texture, grass proportion texture generator. Yeah. One less Perlin noise texture generator, that's good. Now we force generate the texture here. So let's remove that as well. So right now we just set the grass color texture generator. I think we can actually simplify this even more. And I feel like I can do that because we currently have, I think we have 3 procedural grass shaders. 1 procedural grass, 1 procedural grass light, and 1 terrain procedural grass, which is probably going to be the lightest one. also, it just hit me that although we work a lot with vertex input instance ID here, all the materials are we haven't marked the right properties. So for instance, we have terrain data texture here. I think we might want to mark this as a property that varies between instances. I'm gonna look into that as well. But what I'm getting at is we have a texture here called grass colorized gradient, and we use that one like this. So we sample a texture to the LOD, and then we sample it UV color here. Yeah, so we basically generate a value between 0 and 1, and then we use that as a UV for a one-dimensional texture. Or, yeah, it's pretty much a one-dimensional texture. The current gradient actually only has 2 colors, which means that we can remove this texture read and just make it into a 2 colors which we lerp between. And I think we're gonna do that for the procedural grass terrain material, that is. But then again, I think so. At least for now. I'm still trying to plan out how how I want to handle different type of grass, both in visibility or both in color and in properties. Yeah, here we actually have the grass texture we generate. Although mirror here. Do I care about this? I guess it all depends on how this one is calculated. Gradient noise value between 0 and 1. Between 0 and 1. Or actually, we generate the value, multiply by 2, and then minus 1. So it's between minus 1 and 1. So in this case we could actually get a value here that is bigger than 1. That's unfortunate. I think this is not exactly how we want to do it. So we might redo this one in such a way that we do How do I want to do this? Good morning, Tutu Apps. Yeah, this time you didn't miss it. Yeah, I guess we want... Yeah, we're gonna redo this one a tiny bit. We're gonna remove this texture, replace it with 2 colors, lerp between those for now. The less we need to rely on the texture generations, the better, I would say. So yeah, this gradient only has 2 colors basically, so let's do this. Grass color gradient start. And by default we can go with zero, 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 1. This. Good morning, PG King. Yeah, I think we want to do it like this. And before I continue, I'm just going to set these colors so I don't forget. So the start color should be equal to this one. Is that really how it looks? Maybe it is. I think so. And then we take this color. What's up, little Miss Murder? I hear you. How are you coming along? Even though I've kept it short this week because of sickness and other stuff, I think we're coming along pretty good. We have had some nice progress. So instead of relying on this one now, we're going to rely on these 2. So let's remove that one. We could probably even do them as float 3. Good morning, Geralt. Gradient start, gradient end. UV color. We're gonna call this one color float instead, I think. And pretty much what it all comes down to is we want to generate 2 float values, and then we want to interpolate between them which one should be the I think we can do it like this. I wish I was done with the sickness. Unfortunately, this is just a common cold, I think. Do I want to do a simple lerp between these two? Or no, that's not really how we want to do this. Macro to micro ratio. So this is micro scale. Oh yeah, this is how we did it. So we generate a gradient noise value, which is macro. So this is like to give a full color over the grass, or a colored pattern basically. And then this one, or this generates an offset value, so that if we want, we can give neighboring grass a way more different color, pretty much. Appreciate it, Little Miss Murder. The only problem here is we could do it this way when we were working with a texture that had a mirror value. We can't really work with it like this now. Because then we would need a HLSL function that does a lerp, but that mirrors. I don't know, is that even... Nah. So we're gonna have to do some... Let's clean it up a bit. So float, color, macro. Macro is equal to and float color float micro is equal to honestly, I wonder if we could probably do some modulus math here to just get it to wrap ourselves. And the easiest wrap would be a repeat wrap, a mirror wrap. Shouldn't be that hard either, because then we could basically do times 2 minus 1, and then we do color float macro plus times color float micro, and that's about it. So this one is calculated the exact same way as this one. But so this one can be bigger than 1 or less than 0. Now we just need to make it wrap pretty much. So color float is equal to so if it's less than 0, we just take the absolute value of it. If it's bigger than 0, then we want to do something else. So we could do okay, I've had a very similar problem. I should be able to remember exactly how we solved it. But if I remember correctly, we didn't go in that direction. Then we do positive modulus. Modulo. There we go. Is this what we want? We pretty much want it for the negative. This is how we want to handle it in the negative direction. Not really, but almost. In a oops. Okay. Yeah. That's not what we want. Okay, if we would be doing this with an if statement, it would be something like then we just do abs color float. So if we have minus 0.2, we get 0.2. Otherwise, if it's Actually, now when I think about it, let's see. Don't we do something similar here? No, we don't. But we should be able to just... Let's do this. If color float is less than 0, we're just going to do it with this type of logic initially. Else, if color float is bigger than 1, let's do it like this. So here we do color float is equal to abs color float. That mirrors it in that direction. If it's bigger than 1, then we want to do color float is equal to 1.0 minus color float like this, right? So let's say that it's 1.2. Then we got 0.2 here, then we get 0.8. That's a mirror, right? It would be nice if we could implement this in a one line with some nice mathematics, but I need to think about it for a sec. Let's just see if this gives the correct result. And instead of doing this, we want to do lerp color grass gradient start, grass color gradient end, and color float. Actually, yeah, the only thing that bothers me here is this if, else if, but whatever. I want to see if this works, and then we want to do terrain base. We do set material texture, grass color texture generator, texture name, gradient texture. Let's skip this one as well. Any errors? If not, I just want to do a quick check, see how this looks before we continue. So environment now, we still have a wind texture generator. We're gonna still rely on the weather being represented by a texture like this, or the wind. Although, yeah, this is going to be a whole system in of itself. But other than that, we don't have any textures here unused. Okay. So let's take this one for instance. If we do grass color noise ratio, if we go if we go with 0, we just have macro. That means that all of the grass straws are pretty much the same color, I think. And if we go with entirely S1, we get a little more variation between the grass straws, as can be seen. I think we have the same result we had previously. Okay. Let's leave that implementation as is for now, I think. But actually, can we check it in Unity shader graph? They're usually very good in the documentation to show what a node actually gets implemented to. So sample texture 2D node. It just sets the sampler pretty much. Okay. Fuck it. Let's leave that one as is for now. But it should be So what I want to do next is, when my environment is created, we instantiate terrain textures, and we currently instantiate them with Perlin noise for all the channels. So let's take a look at this. Terrain data container. Here we have a constructor that uses the Perlin texture generator. We send in width, height, UV generation offset, UV generation scale, generation noise scale, and coordinate range and false. And then this one, it uses this setup for each of the channels. I wonder, is it finally time? Am I up for the task to rework this gradient texture generator and Perlin noise texture generator? They are kind of a mess right now, honestly. I want to streamline them a bit. I guess we could do value multiplier here I want to work with. Or actually, like, I guess I would also like to so I wonder if I want one class that is called like texture generator, and then you define per channel what type of texture should be in each channel. So in theory, I would like to support, like, we generate a texture with a set width and height, and then for when we fill up the data in each channel, we use different I don't know, texture pixel generators or something like that. Is this something I want to dive into now? And there's so many damn variables involved in all of this. UV scale, then we want to scale the noise in a separate order. Then we have periodic, non-periodic. But what's nice about this is that when we actually get the values, we just send in U and V at all times. So we could do some sort of base class. Not a big fan of this either, honestly. Yeah, I probably want to go with a solution where, like, a static class solution, I think, where this one doesn't hold a texture and you just send in data to it and you get a texture back. I think that's the best solution. There's really no... Once the texture has been generated, it's really, in most cases, there's really no reason for this one to know anything about it still. And here we do gradient evaluate. But then again, like, if I want this class to be, if we just try to convert it to like static methods, And I guess this setup we would convert to structs. So I wonder if a call like this would be better. If we go to terrain data container, like instead of doing this, one would do something like set terrain data. Yeah, basically, because what we do here, we have a Perlin noise texture generator, then we get the noise texture. And if we jump to set terrain data, we have the new data here. We blit the new data into data as render target, and then we read it back to data. So now it means that we have data that represents the exact same thing as this one. So we have two textures representing the exact same thing. That's fucked. So we probably want a static method where you send in a texture as well. And fill it out. Then we don't need to do this either. Still very important here that this one has the same data as this one, unfortunately. Tutu apps, I'm about to upload a video, but there is some background noise. Can't you, like, is it the type of background noise you can't edit out, or what's the problem? Or is it background noise in the voiceover? You could probably minimize it with a software like Audacity or Audacity, or however you pronounce it. So anyway, like I think I would like to do a call something like this: texture generator dot generate for texture, and then we have texture, and then we pretty much have a per channel setting here. So maybe new Perlin noise texture setup. Like this, and then we do a command and we do new color texture setup. Maybe like this, and then we do new gradient texture setup. I don't know. And Voronoi noise texture setup. Something like this. Lil12, thank you for the follow. I think this is the way I would prefer this. And of course all of these are struct inheritance in C#. Fuck. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So for these, how each of these should work are widely different. Perlin noise, for instance, should grab its value from Perlin noise generation based on some parameters. Color texture setup pretty much doesn't need anything, just a pure color. Gradient needs a gradient struct. But they will all support similar methods, like the goals for each of these are the same, i.e. generating pixel values based on some setup. Tutu Apps, congratulations to the published video. Feel free to link it if it's on YouTube. I think this is I can see this being extremely helpful, both for this case, but in future cases as well. And it wouldn't really be that much of a negative thing to just use classes here. They're basically just gonna live during this function call. Yeah. And then of course this would also be structured as a varying list, I think. But then again, yeah. I think the bottom line is even though all of these would be the same, it's still a way better solution than this. We remove duplicated textures, the workflow is a little bit better. Let's just do it, I think. So then we go to generators, Gradient texture generator, Perlin noise texture generator. Let's add a new C script that is texture generator. And then we do a folder as well that is texture generator, texture generation setup. Setups. Texture generation setup. Perlin noise texture generation setup. Color texture generation setup. Yeah, let's start with these. So generation setup. And texture generator, okay. And then we want to do something like public void generate is content generate texture content texture 2D texture, and then varying amounts of setups. Is that args? Something like that. Let's see. Params. Okay, that's how we do it here. So then we do params, should really know this by now. Texture generation setup, setups. Something like this, and yeah, public static void. We're gonna have some similar instead of this, we're just gonna check if texture is equal to none. Actually, return. Can check if texture dot initialize is probably should be by this point. Pixels is equal to, and here we just do texture width, texture height with. Yeah, we're not gonna have a default texture color anymore. We don't care about this. So in this for loop, this is when we go through each channel. So here we basically want to do k is equal to 0, k is less than setups dot length. So if we have 4 values in here, the length is going to be 4, but we have 0, 1, 2, 3. Value multiplier we don't care about right now. Pixels. So the correct pixel, the correct color channel is equal to. Yeah, we want to calculate the UVs as well, but we want to do that. Yeah, we should be doing that one here. So float U is equal to -1, and float V is equal to so then we calculate the UVs here. So with the old system this could just be translated to UV, but what we want to do here is setups K generate texture generation setup, just generate value, I think. And then of course texture set pixels, wrap mode, this one should already be set I think, but we need to apply it, send it to the GPU as well. I think this is a much cleaner way to do this, way more streamlined I think. Sorry about that. Yeah, the hardest part is going to be to clean up the Perlin noise texture generation setup, but I think we can do it. Or the Perlin noise texture generator in this case. So and I think we're gonna have to that's probably not true. Okay, so let's see these two for instance. And we jump to, actually, texture generation setup. Probably want this one to be a, what is it, entirely virtual class. Why? Oh, never mind. Abstract. I always seem to get abstract and virtual messed up. Abstract versus virtual C#. Virtual override abstract. Virtual methods. Yeah. Abstract forces it. Honestly, we could just go with an interface here, I think. Definitely. So I want to go color. Nah, that's not true. Float and generate value, is that it? Float U, float V. What's up, Meister K? Thank you, Meister K. We'll send you the money. Yeah, I think this is how we want to do it. So then we do Perlin Noise texture generator setup. Ooh, I forgot one important part. Texture generation setup. We want to have a little or a big eye here as well. I think that's a nice way to mark it as an interface. So this one is going to implement this one, does not implement yes. So let's do public float generate value float U float V. Let's just do return 0.0 F. And now we shouldn't have a problem here, or do we? Oh yeah. Nice. So this one will pretty much handle itself. Now I think it is correctly set up. Didn't really change that much. Generate texture content. Yeah, I'm a big fan of this approach compared to the other one. But now it all comes down to fixing this one. So for the Perlin noise, I like the approach of using a function like this. So we're gonna have two functions. All it comes down to basically is, yeah, we want to call this one, like if we have non-periodic noise, we want to use noise C noise. If we have periodic noise, we want to use noise P noise. I might be interested in that, Meister K. When do you need my answer? So yeah, I think we're going to do a similar approach here. So it's going to be func float 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 Perlin noise function. But we can just do it like this, and it's going to be equal to, oh, once again, yeah, these are actual classes, so we're gonna need a constructor for this one. And yeah, this is where we want to send in a lot of stuff, but I want to make sure that we don't send in too much, so we don't leave stuff unused, basically. And right now we don't use UV. We do use UV scale down here, but we don't use UV or noise scale, basically. C noise. Let's see. Unity mathematics noise. It also feels a tiny bit over the top to instantiate float 2s here, but I actually use vector 2. Let's go with float 2. Unity Mathematics. Is there any difference between these two except for this one? Okay, MySK, that sounds perfect. Appreciate it. When we calculate the coordinates here, coordinate bounds, we also have coordinate bounds. The fuck? Like, I mean, okay, if we're going to do it like this, we might as well do it like this, honestly. Perlin noise, non-periodic, and then we just create one that is periodic as well. Then we don't need to worry that much about how to handle it. Non-periodic. So Perlin noise, periodic and non-periodic. Long names, but yeah. I want to remove the one here as well. Yeah, non-periodic and periodic. Okay, let's worry about the non-periodic first. So basically when we calculate the value we use this one. So let's take this get non-periodic Perlin noise value. And we do this, this, this. And in this case, I wonder. We do a value bounds here, which we lerp between, and this is to make it possible to, maybe if we want to generate Perlin noise that are like, that is if we want to change the range of the value to be between 0 and 1 to something else. And when we're working with texture generation, I think we want to keep it at 0 and 1. Good morning, Luva. So I'm thinking about skipping this one. If we take a look at where we actually use it, I think we always use it with coordinate range. Yeah, I wonder if we even use it. Value bounds. Yeah, so we don't really care about that one. Contra Rash, I respect the grind, brother. Thank you, appreciate it. Appreciate the support. How far along are you in this process? Well, I have set up multiple goals ahead of me, so it depends on what goal we're talking about. If we're talking about a vertical slice, I'm probably a quarter there, I think. So we're just gonna skip this last lerp we do, but we still need to do this range change, because I don't know what the logic behind it is. Maybe I do. But like Unity Mathematics package, the noise functions there return a value for Perlin noise. I guess it's defined in the -1, 1 range, and that's why it returns it in the -1, 1 range. We want to change that to 0 and 1, right? So this is what we want to do. So the values we need here are coordinate bounds. I'm very interested in this one as well. Coordinate bounds. Then we have origin, UV scale, UV scale. So we have a UV scale. We have an offset. We're going to rename this one offset, or we're going to name it UV offset, UV scale. That's good naming for these. And then we're going to call this one noise scale. I think that's a good word. So we do private. Do we actually want to do it as float too? Nah, we want to work with this one as float 2, but in here we're going to do vector 2, UV offset to UV scale, noise scale. UV scale. Ooh, that is true. So we have worked with this one as a single float previously. I don't see why we don't want it as a 2 float. Okay, so this part is fixed. Now I just need to understand what my thinking behind this one is. So we send it in as the last one before periodic here. Range coordinate bounds. In terrain data container we send in coordinate bounds to be coordinate range. Coordinate range. So I guess then in terrain patch. Yeah, this is where we create it. And what a mess this is, honestly. Noise scale, here we have it. So new range, ooh, okay, so that's the max dimension. Yeah, that's... we send in max dimension here as well. What is it? Control F12. Max dimension, terrain base, dimension. So dimension here is the world space dimension of the full terrain. And then we create a range that is minus half the max dimension to max dimension. I would love to be able to remove this. We have coordinate range. And then finally we use coordinate bounds here, inverse lerp. So what are we actually doing? Yeah, we're transforming. I think what we're doing is we're transforming a float value that is within the patch to be relative to the full terrain mesh. So we transform UVs to be relative to a patch to be relative to the full terrain. And I guess we need to do something similar to get a nice initial terrain generation. Can we generalize this and make it a little bit prettier? Terrain data container, coordinate range. An origin with height. Let's see, origin is UV generation offset. And UV generation offset is do it like that. I think we can skip the... Yes, I think we can definitely skip this one, I think. The bottom line is that we're gonna have to keep this one here, but we're gonna rename it to private vector 2. Coordinate bounds is actually a good name, I think. But I still don't think we need this one. I think this offset should fix it for us. Yeah, I'm gonna see how that works. So we're gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and we're gonna skip this one. Let's see if we get a nice noise generated. The less things we need here, the better, I would say. I want to try this. Now we have enough texture generation setups to properly test this. So if we jump back to terrain data container, then we should be able to do pretty much this, but we do what did we call this one? We generate texture content, texture, and here we just say data. And then we do new Perlin noise non-periodic texture setup. UV generation offset, UV generation scale, and generation noise scale. Oh yeah. And we pretty much want to do it like this. From float to vector 2, yeah, because we use vector 2s there, so let's also do a Let's do it underneath this one. And we do float UV offset, float UV scale, and float noise scale. So we have one constructor that takes vector 2s and one that takes floats, and here we just do can we do this new vector 2, we can do UV offset multiplied by vector 2 1, UV scale times vector 2.1 and noise scale times vector 2.1. Shouldn't we be able to do something like this? Or do we need to do this? Yes. Maybe not the cleanest solution. Everything to simplify it in this one, honestly. So but it still complains. Yeah, of course, because this one still needs to be vector 2. I thought. Cannot convert from void. Yeah, because we want to jump to this one. Set terrain data. Yeah, the idea behind this is that we don't want to use set terrain data. We just want to do we basically just want to do this. And then finally we want to do I think we still want to do a graphic split data to data as render texture. So I'm a little bit worried about the boundary, but this one should yield the same result as this. We're gonna try it, see what we get. Although with set terrain data, new data, instantiate data as render texture. Yeah. Control Dash, which part of your game are you working on here? I know nothing about game development and just see code. Currently we're like in this game we're working with a lot with terrain that is changeable. So the player will run around in a landscape that he or she can change. And basically the core point of that is behind the scenes we have a texture that represents the terrain values, and it's that part we're changing right now, like how we generate that specific texture. Basically we had a working solution. Now I'm just streamlining it and making it more generalized so it can be applied in more cases. And as for the second question, are you doing everything yourself, art and all? Currently, yes. So let's see what kind of result we get by using this new texture generator instead of Perlin Noise texture generator. So we're just gonna comment this one out, see if we have any errors, and then try and run it. Okay, no errors what I can see. So let's see what happens during runtime. Yeah, we're a bit far off. I wonder if we can still terraform, however. We can, but not entirely in the correct way. So what is the reason for this? Can we add grass? Yeah, grass we can add. The terraforming doesn't really... Okay, I see. We get a little bit of a miscommunication in what's in the texture. Yeah, and we get... Okay, I see. Not quite there just yet. So the initial generation doesn't get communicated in the right way. But if we remove the initial generation, we still have it working exactly like it did. Interesting, actually. This one should apply it. These should generate it. Thank you, Meister K. Yeah, I think this is starting to take shape. I like it. Set terrain data. Was it that we missed this one? It could very well be. Like, when we streamline this, we're gonna get, like, if we make the code both cleaner and work more efficient. So previously we had a 2 texture 2D here representing the same data. We're not gonna have that this time around. And like here we got a texture with the new data. We then blit it to the GPU, read it back, and then send it to the GPU again. This time around we're basically just going to... I want to see if this was the mistake, by the way. This time around we're going to generate it on the CPU. And then send it to the GPU. Well, so let's see if I want to double check if this was the case for the error. Control Dash looks awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's quite a lot of work, but it works. And thank you for your wishes. I appreciate it. And thank you for stopping by. Yeah, we still have... now we're more Yeah, now we're way closer to where we want to be. So now we don't have now the data is synced at least, so that is good. Oops. We just don't get the initial landscape, that is all. So that is probably, that's the texture generations problem. What range do we have on this environment? We have a range of 0 and 3. Is this actually 3 high though? Okay, I see. Okay, this is good. So let's see. The only thing that's failing right now is this one doesn't seem to generate the correct value we want, and it's actually more than set up, so we might want to rename these later on. But let's take a look at this one. Setups.length should be okay. Basically what we're getting is this one just returns value of 0.5 for all of them. Oh, yeah. Need to go to this one. Or how should I put this? Yeah, the value we get are 0.5 for all of them, which is wrong. And I think it has to do with... yeah. I wonder if it has to do with... here we... yeah. Or could it be? Yeah, I wonder if we need to do... wonder if we actually need to do this. Pixels are equal to array dot why can I never remember this one? Let's see. Sam with Playground randomly clicked on your stream while researching tile shapes for a game I'm building. These visuals look amazing. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate the sub as well, and good luck with your project. So what I'm a little bit afraid of here is that we just... yeah, we create a texture, we have default values there. Here we instantiate an array, but we don't instantiate the colors, which means that the generation doesn't actually generate anything. Hence we get 0.5 for all pixel values. So I just need to figure out what the syntax for this one is. Where do I use it? Actually, I use it in Perlin Noise. I use it in Perlin Noise Texture Generator. What we want to use is repeat, enumerable repeat, and then it's the value and the amount. Yeah. So in Texture Generator, we might need to do enumerable dot repeat color dot black texture dot width times texture dot yeah, we can do it like this, I think. And yeah, to array. You can skip the to array and work with enumerable here, it should be okay. But I think we should also be able to do color pixels is equal to texture dot get pixels. I think that's the better way to do it. And we do it like this because this approach is way faster than doing texture dot get pixel repeatedly. So we just put it into array, easier to work with, and yeah, easier to work with and quicker to work with. I wouldn't really say easier, but quicker. So let's see if this was the problem compared to this. Everything else is unchanged, I think. And when it comes to these two calls, we're going to put this in a method that is, I think we're going to have a method that is called sync textures. It's just when we do the actual terraforming, it's way quicker and easier to work with if we do it on the GPU. But with my current understanding, that means that we have to have a texture 2D on the CPU, and we work with a render texture that represents that texture on the GPU. Although I'm not entirely sure about that. It's just the fact that the blit command takes a texture source and a render texture destination. And I think that's the case. Yeah, destination always have to be a render texture, so then it comes down to convert texture 2D to render texture. Yeah, I don't think there's any way around it, which I think is pretty weird, because we can usually maybe it's the abstraction that makes it weird, because when we set textures in materials, so shaders on the GPU, we can send in a texture 2D, but then we don't know what happens, or I don't know exactly what happens behind the scenes there. They might very well create a render texture duplicate. So yeah, that's why we need to do this. But let's see what we get now. Hopefully a correctly generated terrain. But we do not. So could it be, could it actually be how we used coordinate range together with generation noise scale previously? Terrain patch, coordinate range, noise scale we send in, and noise scale we just define here. Noise scale is 15. One sec, do we actually have any variation in, or is it just a plane? Okay, so if we do 3 and we do noise scale 150, that means we make it bigger, right? I love how quick it actually starts now. Let's go 0.1 then. And there we go. So we actually generate noise. It's just we generated it with a semi-weird scale for this new system. And something that I like to see here is that although we removed the bounds here, we still get symmetry between patches. So that's beautiful. We don't need range bounds. That's great. Environment. But then we just need to figure out a nice noise scale here. 0.5. Ugh. We want to go the other direction. 0.05. A little bit better. Yo, what's up, Robert Pattinson? And I wish best of everything. Thank you, appreciate it. Likewise. Yeah, the grass is back, and we even have grass terraforming. Let's see. It's pretty good. Sometimes it looks very good, sometimes not as good. I wonder what... yeah. Yo, what's up, DevSpires? Thank you so much for the raid. Appreciate it. And hope you had a wonderful stream. And welcome to all the new 53 viewers. We're currently doing some terraforming development here. As for the past month, I would say. There's still a little bit of a miscommunication between when to color the base texture and when to spawn grass. So I just need to figure out a good value there. This one is... it's too... maybe something like this is better. But then we still have this miscommunication here. Ah, actually. 0.15 is 0.1. Yeah, that's way better, I would say. I think it's better. We can also see here that this grid, the visual grid we have, doesn't really sync with the grass we're painting. And that is because it's currently... We do some... When we terraform instead, we do some... We change the values in the middle of the marker, but we change the vertices in the full marker. We need to get that under control as well. Yeah, I think this is good. Namiratu, thank you so much for follow, appreciate it. And yeah, I would enjoy a cup of tea right now, but I'm gonna have to settle with Monster for now. Okay, but this is great. So this means that for now, terrain data container, this approach works. So we can throw away this ugly mess and just work with this one. But before I continue, I do want to implement Perlin noise periodic as well, I think. So let's take a look at this one. The only difference here is that instead of C noise here, we want to use P noise, and then we need to send in a float 2 period. Is it? So just like this. Float 2 period. What's up, Skafer? Do you have 7 TV? People happy? I have no idea what that's supposed to mean. And Never Stop Dash, thank you for the follow, appreciate it. So this is pretty much the only difference, I think. I want to try this one as well. Let's see, get periodic Perlin noise value. We do this. Ah, yes, we did it like this. I like it even more. Periodic, so we just need to do this basically. Or I guess we could do UV scale in this case. Fuck it. Knowing this, we probably don't need to separate them, honestly. So 7TV is some emote application or something like that. Am I understanding it correctly? Just had to Google it. Oh, Skafer, you just gave me the answer. It's an extension for a web browser for custom emotes. No, like I appreciate emotes, but I'm not that deep into it that I would have custom web browsers and stuff like that. while we're on the subject, isn't that... So I guess there exists emotes that you can send and receive, but to be able to send and receive them, both the sender and the receiver need to have the web browser extension, right? So every time you use that type of emote, you never know what portion of the receiving end of people that will actually see the emote. Doesn't that like reduce the value in the extension itself? It's like people that in games like World of Warcraft, for instance, I know that you could do skin change, but you were the only one that saw the skin change. Like, what I'm trying to say is that like non-standardized things is not that good? Question mark. It reduces the value of them at least. Okay, for now we're gonna have two separate... Ah, fuck. Let's do it like this. Periodic. Delete. And then we jump to this one. We do rename. Non-periodic. Nice shorter name. We rename this one Perlin noise texture generation setup. And then we do bool periodic is equal to false by default. Same here. And then we do wonder if we can do private func Perlin noise function, and here we do Perlin noise function is equal to periodic. If it's true, we return, can we do it like this? Float. Is this the syntax for it? Noise dot c noise uv. But we actually want them as a float 2. Coordinates. Otherwise, we return float 2. Something tells me this is not correct. Noise. Just noise. Noise dot p noise. Coordinates, and what was it? UV scale. What's up, Desai? What feature are you working on right now? Currently just streamlining the texture generation part of the terrain. I'm not seeing syntax highlight here. Maybe I should. Is this the correct way? Let's see what the compiler says about it. The namespace. And then we have the wrong here. 2 floats. Yeah, we want to do it like we take a float 2 and we return a float, and then we have float 2, float 2. There we go. Yeah. So like this. Okay, I want to double check if this works, and if it does work, we're gonna change the period to be true. So we're gonna do periodic noise, and if we do periodic noise for the height maps, we're gonna see difference between we're gonna see some difference between patches, but that's okay. Okay, so this seems to work, so let's do the periodic as well. We don't. Yeah, this is interesting. The patches still sync. Is it because of our... let's see here. Periodic is equal to true. If it's periodic, we do C noise. It should be the other way around. It should be the other way around. Weird that false gave us the correct one then. Yeah, that's weird. What a mess this is. I'm extremely happy to be able to skip this shit. Noise scale. A little bit worried about this one and periodic. I wonder if we want to do real quick. Let's just rerun this one. Okay, I wonder if we get a period, I don't know, that is bigger than the full what if we did 0.05? Still not entirely correct. Yeah, noise scale definitely screws with it a bit. I wonder if we want to do UV scale times noise scale. Yes. Sorry. The problem is this one. We never use it. So we want to put it here. So in the constructor we decide on which Perlin noise function this one should use. And then we actually use it. So now I'm starting to question this one. What's up, Peach? Morning to you too. Here we didn't have a noise scale, so we just used UV scale. Let's see what kind of result we get with this. Ooh, now we're maybe a bit closer. Yeah, now I think we have the correct one here, yes. So each of these patches are basically the same noise. And thanks to how we have a little bit of a but thanks to how we have created this, we still get good seams behind them, so that's good. But nice. Okay, now we both have periodic and non-periodic noise again in a way more streamlined way. And we don't create excessive amount of textures. That's maybe the most important part. Peach, my inventory system asset is finally ready to be published. Nice. Unless they find something else wrong with it. Yeah. I'm hoping for the best. Hopefully you can get it out there. And feel free to share a link when it passes the check, you know. Okay, so one of the main reasons we're redoing this system is because we want to we want to be able to generate the height with one type of texture generator, and we want to be able to generate the initial grass amount with one type of texture, and then whatever we're using the other parts for as well. That's so the RGB, the blue channel and the alpha channel is still up for grabs when it comes to our system. But what I want to create now is what I want to implement rather, is the color texture generator setup, generation setup. Texture generation setup, and then we need to implement yeah, we want to rename this one. Texture generation setup. I want to rename all of these actually. It's not going to be texture generation setup, it's going to be texture channel generation or texture something. Because now it implies a full texture. Yeah, naming isn't my strong suit, but generate value. And here we just want to have a value, I think. Yeah. No. Float U. Float V. Could this possibly be, in its current state, the most useless class ever? What version of C# does Unity use? Depends on the Unity version, I think. I don't know. Okay. So what I want to do here now is in terrain data container, when we generate the initial texture, what we can do now, we can do this. First of all, we're going to remove that one, and then we can do new value texture generation setup, and the value 0.0f. And we're actually going to copy this one here and here. I think this is quite nice. So generate texture content, and then if we rename these with something with channel in the name, then I think this line here is going to read very good. So generate texture content in the texture data. Red channel should use Perlin noise texture generation setup. G, B, and A should use value texture generation setup. Little Miss Murder, nice, at least you have covariant return types. I don't know what that means. Covariant return types. Probably ooh. Holy Is this true? Dude, this is powerful as hell. I think I can clean up. I think I can build my, or make my action system cleaner using this. Thank you, appreciate it. Like, this is powerful stuff. How does it look on the receiving end? Can you anticipate receiving something like this? Dude, this, what the fuck? I need to read more on this. And Rust give me, let's see here. I want to start streaming about how I study JavaScript. Do I need a powerful PC to do that? I don't know if I'm the correct person to answer it, but probably not. But I mean, the best way to find out is to just try it. And when it comes to streaming software, I recommend just OBS. Just the open source OBS. And good luck. It depends on a lot of factors, I guess. If you want to be streaming 4K in 144 FPS, it's gonna be a little bit more needy. The compiler would flip you the bird because the return type was covariant. Yeah, I need to read up on this one. I think I can use this quite a lot, actually. Or not a lot, but I have a certain place in my codebase currently that I think could gain a lot by doing this. Definitely. Okay, so back to this. I like this except for the naming here. So I guess I would rename this one. Let's see here. Is Perlin noise texture channel value generator a good name? Yeah. But okay, so the first term, it tells us like how the value is generated. The next term is what type of value. That is why I would say texture channel value, because that would imply, okay, this is a value that is going to be used for a texture channel. You usually work with values between 0 and 1. So that would imply like the bounds you get of the values as well. And then we remove setup and call it generator, because yeah, it's a class and it actually keeps things and does work. So yeah, let's do it. Texture channel value generator. Yeah, so it's pretty much this one I wanna. So this one then. constant value. Is that what I want to name it? So constant value texture value generator, whatever. I think this reads pretty good. So if we play now, we should be able to see a terrain that has hills and dips, but no grass at all. Yeah, we still have the grass shaders. We have a little bit of a normal screw up, but that's okay. Now we should be able to add grass to our own liking. A little bit worried about that one. It's still okay. I wonder if fixing the I think we can fix this. This is rough though. Okay, that's not a patch issue. It looks pretty good as short grass as well. Defan GG, thank you for the follow, and Geralt, amazing job sir, I love it so much. Thank you, appreciate it. Yeah, it looks pretty damn good. I want to fix let's see. I guess we could go pretty crazy with the, if we take a look at, yeah, if we have this set up, I think we could go pretty crazy with how tall grass we actually allow for. So currently we just go to 0.6. If we go to 1 or 2, and we do and then we do and then we could create a little patch that is extremely tall. Maybe a bit too tall, but you get the idea. Like, I think one can already create kind of wonderful things with this. Or nice things, at least. And we're also going to change how the grass brush works. So right now it's additive. Like if we're terraforming grass, we have a value of 0.1, then we add a value of 0.1 to the texture every time we terraform. But how I want this one to work in the end, I think, is that you basically, if you have it at 0.1 and we place it here, then we set all the grass in this area to 0.1, and this is the worst case scenario. We set all that grass to 0.1, or if it already had a bigger value, we just set it at that value. So it's basically going to be, in this swath I want grass that is 0.2 high. In this one I want grass that is 0.6 tall. And so on and so on. I think, I'm not entirely sure just yet. Yeah, grass mower would be extremely satisfying, I think. So that would, like, quite easy with the current backend to this. It's just having a value of -1, a square brush, and put it around here maybe. And with some nice animations. Although it would... yeah, it shows the resolution of the underlying texture a lot, but I guess that's okay. Farming Simulator next level, indeed. And performance looks good. It looks okay. It's still I don't know my CPU by name, but what do we have? A 1080. I'm streaming to 2 endpoints. We're running this in editor, and we still jank out above 100 FPS most of the time. It's okay, but I think we can improve it quite a lot as well. Are there any garbage collector chokes? Not that I could... not that I know of right now. It shouldn't be, but you never know. I'm trying. So when it comes to the terrain, let's just real quick look at one patch here, for instance. So when we generate the terrain, we have a terrain base class which creates multiple terrain patches, and this is one patch right now, quite small. We're gonna have to do a lot of testing which patch size is the best. And when we create a patch, we create a texture that is a defined size, and we create a render texture that is a defined size, and then we hold on to those like forever. We also create an array of a custom-made data type that we also hold on forever. So those things, the textures and the mesh data, are never going to be like thrown on the garbage pile, so to speak. And when we do a blit this time around, what we do, or like when we change the terrain data, we take a brush texture, we do a blit on the render texture on screen. Yeah, I don't think, like, after the initial instantiation of the terrain, I don't think we create any new objects during the full Terraform pipeline. We just use what we have, change what we have. So hopefully not. Guess we're gonna have to analyze that later on. Okay, what the hell is happening here? This I want to take a look at. Maybe I don't have the time today, but let's look at what's actually happening here. So these ones, they use a custom tessellation shader to be able to retessellate it for the grass shader. This is also something we're gonna fix. So in places where we don't have any grass, we don't tessellate. Right. The only purpose for the tessellation is to simplify the grass generation. Which honestly, I'm using that word a lot, but I wonder, like, when we decide, it depends. But when we decide on a proper terrain size and resolution, we might want to skip the tessellation step of the grass shader altogether. Will the player be able to freely terraform the grass, for example, or will the player only seed the ground and grass grows over time? Good question. One sec. I'm not entirely sure how I want to tackle that just yet. But I think, like, so there's going to exist stuff that the player will plant and then they will grow over time if the player takes care of them, like trees, flowers, fruit, whatever, those kind of things. So those are things that needs to be planted and needs to be given time and other resources before they grow. When it comes to the terraforming of height, so if the player wants to dig a hole, he's going to use a shovel and he's going to remove or instantly terraform the terrain, basically with a nice animation. If the player wants to add hills, he or she is going to empty like a bag of dirt, I think, and it's instantly going to change. And when it comes to the grass, I'm leaning towards making that instant as well. So the player is basically going to have a bag of grass seeds, a type of grass seeds, and empty it over an area, and it's instantly going to be grass there. with some nice animation, but like it's not gonna take a long in-game time before there is grass there. How we do it when it comes to like animation and stuff like that, I haven't really decided just yet. But like gameplay wise, the grass is going to be there instantly. It all depends on how we want to do it animation wise. So this issue here, we do a custom tessellation shader. We generate, or we customly clip or remove triangles that, according to our algorithm, is not visible. And that algorithm uses the camera frustum to check if the triangles are outside of the view, and that one works. What we're seeing here is we also cull or remove some triangles based on the normal of the triangles, and in this case here we can see that this culling does not work, so backface culling basically. And I think it has to do with the weird shade we see here. So when we, like, this is an edge case as well, and not something that we should worry about too much, but I like to remove it anyway. So the problem here is probably that the normals we generate at the edge of a patch doesn't really get generated accordingly. So we can see here that we get this black fade, and that's because the normals here are not in the up direction but in some other direction, and that affects the tessellation. I think the current approach to generating these normals, or I thought, was so when we calculate the normal for this triangle here basically, then we grab the value of the neighboring patch, and we only do this during generation or terraforming. But when we try to do it here, we don't have any neighbor in this direction. So then I think the default approach I implemented was to take this value and calculate a normal based on that. And I think we would rather like to just use an up normal, I think. Yeah, I might have time to just check into this. So terrain patch. So this is a function where we calculate normals, and we can see here that we get terrain patch, and this is just a nice function to, like, we get a terrain patch based on an index. If the index is outside, we get the neighboring patch, and then we get the height value. So if we take a look at this one, yes, we calculate the new I and j. If that neighbor exists, we return that neighbor. If it doesn't exist, we return this patch. So let's say, for instance, that we go up in one index in the up direction, and that patch doesn't exist, then this function will return this patch. And then we do height here, and we do up one as well. Let's see, we get index wrapped, and get index wrapped is if we're outside of the bounds, we do a positive mod. So -1 becomes -1 becomes the maximum amount. So yeah, I think it works as I said. And this screws us over because we get there's a big difference at the height here and the height here. Best case scenario, find a nice clean way to fix this so everything else still works. If I can't do that, I think I'm just gonna leave it as is. Because the idea is, let's say that the player is given this garden. So this is the garden of the player. We're still gonna have some type of terrain outside of the limits, but it's going to be maybe like a forest. And then some type of fence. So what I'm getting at is the player will never be able to run towards the edge of the world. Hence the player will never see these type of artifacts. So yeah, if I can come up with a nice way to solve it, we might do it. I want to know what heavy weaponry will be available. Honestly, like most of the planning for this game, like how it should play, what should be involved, etc., was done around the beginning of 2022. And certain events around that time made me want to do maybe a non-war haven, you know. So I actually had plans of one character that one is going to interact with that should be a hunter, basically. And it was a big question if that hunter should have an actual weapon or something non-weaponry. But when it comes to heavy weaponry, I don't think we will feature it. And thank you, Little Miss Murder, again. Yeah, I think it looks pretty damn good. Still a lot of improvements. There I had a... where do we go? Profiler. We have some spikes here. I wonder what it is. It's the garbage collector that screws us over. I wonder why, however. Yeah, we're gonna look into that way more later down the road. That's a nice question and scenario, Little Miss Murder. Like, when I released my first devlog, I think that was 3 years ago, then the game was still in the planning stages, and then almost a year later I actually wrote the first line of code. And then I worked on it not as much as I would like, and I actually dialed the amount I work on it up, like starting at the end of last year. But yeah, if this would have been shown for me 3 years ago, then when I started, like when I first put the pen to the paper on the idea, I would be very impressed, I think. Mostly with the visuals, actually. I think that's one of my weaker parts. Or like, I think my visions are good, but how to get to those visions, I'm lack certain skills for that. Yeah, I think I would be very impressed. Unscripted logic, hardcore profiling, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna do that. I'm actually a bit surprised by the garbaging. I wonder what it collects. Could be editor based stuff as well, right? You would need to build it and use probably a third-party profiler software to get a clearer look. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, unscripted logic. Thank you. Yeah, I think so as well. Oh yeah, like when we get entities affecting the environment, like bending the grass, it's gonna look so damn nice. But that's gonna be a whole system in and of itself. But yeah, unfortunately, I don't have time to do more today. I still see a lot of things I would like to get to, but that they are going to have to wait until tomorrow because I gotta run. But as always, thank you so much for watching, everybody, and have a great rest of the day. Peace.